Hello everyone, you're all welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how I made this palazzo trouser. Thank you to all my subscribers, and if this is your first time on this channel, please subscribe by clicking on the red button below the video, and also like our videos please, and turn on your post notification so you're updated whenever I upload a new video. The video that will be coming up next is going to be a crop top, a spaghetti crop top. I hope you do not want to miss that, so turn on your post notification bell and then subscribe. Thank you so much. So we are working on this beautiful Ankara fabric. I'm going to start my drafting with the front pattern of the trouser. To determine the quantity of fabric you need to fold, what you have to do is take your round tie measurement and divide it by 2. Then you add like 3 inches to 4 inches allowance to that measurement of what you're going to get from dividing your round tie by 2. Like the round tie measurement of this trouser is 26 inches. I divided it by 2, giving me 13 inches, and I added 4 inches for allowance, making it 17 inches. So I have 17 inches on fold, and when open is 34 inches. So that's how to go about it. I went ahead to mark my start line. That's where I'm going to be starting all my vertical measurements from. So I'm going to, the length of the trouser I'm working with is 41 inches. I'm going to minus, because this trouser have band, I'm going to take away 1.5 inches from it. I'm adding a band of 1.5 inches. So I'm going to place my measurement from 1.5 inches on that start line. So 1.5 is already out of it. I placed it from 1.5 inches. I just placed it there and I started my measurement. My hip, I took my hip measurement of 9.5 inches. Remember, 1.5 is already out of it, so my hip measurement is 9.5 inches. Then I'll go ahead to take my crotch measurement of 11 inches. To get your crotch measurement, just sit on a flat surface and place your tape on your waist down to that surface, or you divide your hip measurement by 4 and add 1 to 2 inches depending on how free you want it to be at the crotch side. So I went down 11 inches for my crotch depth. I'm going to mark it around that point and rule a horizontal measurement. So the trouser is 41 inches in length. I've already marked it there. I'm going to add my sewing allowance before cutting. Then I'll go ahead and take my tie measurement, my tie point. I'm going to be coming down from the crotch point by 3 inches. So I'm going to mark it at that point. Down from my crotch point, I'm coming down by 3 inches for my tie point. I'm going to rule a horizontal line as well. So I'll go over it. That's my waist measurement. The start line there is already representing the waist measurement. Then I came down 9.5 inches for my hip point, and then I came down 11 inches for my crotch point, and then from the crotch point I came down by 3 inches for my tie points. I want this trouser to be beginner friendly as much as possible, so I'm going to take my time to explain things in detail. I'll come to my hip point and place my round hip measurement. The round hip measurement I'm working with is 42 inches. I'll divide 42 inches by 4, which will give me 10.5. I'm going to mark 10.5 at the hip point there. Then I'll add extra 1 inch for sewing allowance, making it 11.5. I'm going to extend that line to the waist line and also to the crotch line. I'll use my ruler and rule a straight line from the waist to the crotch point. I hope this chalk is visible. I'm trying so hard so you can see what I'm marking out. At this point, we are going to determine our crotch extension, and to do that, I'm going to place my tape on my hip point and mark out what I got there, which is 11.5. I'm going to divide that 11.5 by 4. Whatever I get, I got 2.98 or 2.9. I'm going to place it on my crotch. I'm placing it right from that line that I ruled up. Yes, that hip line. I'm going to be placing the 2.9 at that point and mark it as my crotch extension. Then I'm going to come up at that edge there. I'm going to be coming up by 1.5 inches. You can use 2 inches. This is to help us get a nice curve. We don't want a curve that will go in too much. So to be on the safe side, you come out by 1.5 or 2 inches so you can get a smooth blend at that point. So I'm going to connect the points together. So you can see I stop exactly at the crotch extension. Then I'm going to take my waist measurement. I'm starting the measurement from the line I ruled, the hip line. The waist I'm working with is 33 inches. I divided that by 4, which is 8.25. I'm going to be adding 1 inch for my seam allowance and another 1 inch for my dart. So I'm adding extra 2 inches. So from that point, so at the end I have like 10.25, yes. So I'm going to connect the line into the hip point. Then I'll come to my tie line. Measure your tie measurements. Take your tie measurements and divide it by 2. The tie I'm working with is 26 inches. Divide by 2 is 13 inches. So okay, to mark that out, I'm going to come to my crotch point and I'll place my tape there. I'll place my tape there from the crotch line. And I'm going to determine the midpoint of this measurement. place your tape there and then mark out the midpoint. So that midpoint, I'm going to extend it down and I'm going to extend it upward as well. I'm going to use this to take my tie measurement so it can align properly, because at times if you don't do this, most times your trouser won't align well. So for it to align well, you take this measurement so everything can blend in properly. So after dividing my tie measurements by 2, which is 13 inches, I'm going to divide that by 2 again, which is 6.5. So I'm going to mark 6.5 at each side of the line in the middle. So I'm going to mark 6.5 to this side and I'm going to mark 6.5 to the other end as well. Okay, and I also added my seam allowance. I added seam allowance of 1 inch, so making it 14 inches. So I ended up marking 7 inches on both ends. So I'm going to roll that line from the crotch point, from the crotch line over there down. Please watch what I'm doing carefully so you will understand better, even as you listen, how to go about it. So I marked 7 inches to one side. Then I'm going to roll that line down. So since this is not a fitted pant, I didn't take my knee measurements anymore. So I'm just going to extend that line down to the hemline. It's a straight pant. It's a palazzo pant, so it's free. It's free at that point. And if you want yours to be bigger, you add more inches. Okay, you add more allowance to it. You can add up to 2 inches, 3 inches allowance to it, depending on how free you really want your trouser to be. So basically, this is the drafting of the front pattern of a palazzo trouser. Before cutting out the side, I'm going to take the length, which is 41 inches. Then I'm going to be adding extra 2.5 inches for my sewing allowance. I'm going to cut out the excess at that point. Then I'm going to fold it up. Before cutting, I'm going to fold it up. This is going to prevent shortage. Okay, it's going to prevent shortage of fabric at that hem point. So you fold it up this way before cutting out. After this, I'm going to come down 1/2 inch at the crotch point, and I'm going to connect that to the waistline. So now this is our back pattern. To determine the quantity of fabric to fold, go ahead and measure out the front, the quantity you use for the front, and then add extra 4 or 5 inches allowance. So I'm going to place it like this, and make sure you have space at the upside and space on both sides, space to the crotch, space to the side seam. So I'm going to place my tape from the crotch line to that midpoint I marked at the front pattern, which gave me 4.5. I'm going to mark the midpoint of that 4.5, which is 2.25. Then at that point, I'm going to go up by 2.5. At the midpoint I just marked, I marked 2.5 for my crotch length to add to it for the back. Because of our butt, the crotch length at the back is supposed to be longer than that of the front. So I'm going to also go on to mark 2.25 at the waist. Remember the 2.25 from which I took the crotch length up, the midpoint of that middle line. I'm going to be replacing it at the waist side there for the back. So that point is going to be our new waistline for the back. When you measure it, you'll see that it's the same. So I'm going to take my ruler and mark a slant line from the crotch length, the new crotch length, to the new waistline for the back. We are doing this because we are not using elastic for this trouser. So we are doing this to achieve a band that is going to fit on the waist properly. So you can see at that midpoint, I went up by 2.5. And if you're working with a smaller size, you can use 2 inches at that crotch length there. And if you're working with a bigger size, you can use 3 inches. So from there, I went up, and then I replaced the 2.25 at that midpoint at the waist side for the back. I hope you understand that. Please just watch how I did it, and you follow carefully, you'll be able to achieve a good result. Then I'm going to come to my crotch extension. To achieve the crotch extension for the back, I'm going to come out by 2.5. You can use 3 inches as well at this point if you're on the bigger side. So I came out using 2.5. I marked it there. I'm going to take my ruler and mark a straight line. And I'm going to mark my crotch point there, and then I'll extend it from the new crotch length at the back to the new crotch line we have now for the back. So you're just going to make a curve connecting these points. So I'm going to be adding my seam allowance now. So from my tie line, I'm going to be adding 1 inch from the side. I'll add 1 inch all the way down to the hem. Please, at this point, if you've not subscribed to my channel, subscribe and like our video. Turn on your post notification bell so you're updated whenever I upload the next video, which is going to be an overlapping crop top with a spaghetti sleeve. If you don't want to miss that, please stay tuned to the channel. Thank you all so much. So I'm going to roll it down, connecting the points. Then I'll also come to the inseam and take 1 inch seam allowance all the way down as well. After this, I'll go ahead and roll the line. Please, if this is your first time, you've never made a trouser before, and you want to make this particular type, just follow carefully how I've gone about it, and you're going to achieve a good result. Watch what I'm doing and how I'm going about it. So I'm going to be marking out my dart line. At that midpoint there, I'll take my dart line, 1/2 inch at both sides, and then I'll come down by 4.5 inches. I'm going to sew it down by 4.5, and I took half inch on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead to notch it. I'll do same thing for the back also. What I have there is 4.5. I'm going to the waistline for the back and mark that 4.5. I'll mark it there, and then I'm also going to take the 1/2 inch on both sides, come down by 4.5 inches, then I'm going to notch it. Notching is just like cutting it. When you hear notch, you're like, giving it kind of a cut, little cut. So at the crotch point for the back, I'm going to come up by 1 inch because I notice it's too deep and I don't want it too deep. So I came out by 1 inch at that crotch curve. Yes, you can see the first one is quite deep. So this is the new one. Just come up by 1 inch at that curve. I'll go on and cut it out at this point. And so you can see the crotch there. I came out by 1 inch, so it's not too deep. So I'll cut it out. The next thing I'm going to do is to go over to my sewing machine. I'm going to be sewing at the crotch line for the back using 1/2 inch. I'm going to do the same thing for the front. After that, I'll go over and take my dart line. I'm going to sew my dart lines as well. So I'm done joining the front and the back crotch, the front crotch and that of the back. You can see how it's looking. I used 1/2 inch to join the both legs together. Then after this, I'll place the front at the back and join the sides. So I'm done joining the sides. One thing you need to understand is that the back pattern and the front pattern, they are not the same. The back pattern is always bigger than the front pattern, except someone that is really slim. Because so when you're joining together, it won't align. What you need to do, align it. Make sure the edges are aligned before sewing. When you sew one side, you see that there is no space for the other side. Pull it together. Just make sure the edges are aligning before you sew. You're doing the right thing. Don't think it's wrong. No, at the end it's going to fit very well. I used 1 inch to sew down at each side. So you can use 1/2 inch. So after this, I'm going to be joining it at the inseam, which is from the crotch side of the trouser. The back crotch is still longer than the front crotch. Like I earlier said, pull it together, bring it together. Make sure the edges are aligning. You can use your pin to hold it down. Use your pin to hold it down. It's okay, you're on the right path. If it seems like it's not equal, it's fine. Use your pin to hold it down and go to your sewing machine. I'm going to use 1/2 inch to sew down from the crotch. I'll sew one leg of the trouser down, of the palazzo trouser down. Then I'll go to the other side, and from the crotch I'll sew using 1/2 inch down on the other leg of the palazzo trouser. I'm done adding both sides of the crotch line at the inseam. There you can see how it's looking. So I also opened the side because that's where I'll be placing my zipper. I opened it down to like 8 inches. So for the band now, I'm going to go ahead to measure round from that opening to the other end of the opening. Measure round your waist, including your seam allowance. So I have 34. So I'm going to be cutting out like 35 inches just to have a little excess in case. And here's my band. This is 4 inches. I also added interfacing to it. Unfold is 2 inches. And I went ahead to fold 1/2 inch inward at both edge. So I have 1.5 inches left for my band height. And while the length is around 35 inches. So I'll place it on my trouser. I'm placing it on the palazzo trouser. So what you're going to do is you're going to be placing the band on the wrong face of your trouser. You're going to be placing the right face of the band on the wrong face of your trouser, just how I'm doing it. You're going to open up one side of the folded edge. So I'm using my pin now to illustrate how I would sew it on my machine. So I'm going to be sewing it at that folded edge using 1/2 inch. So I have good face now on the wrong face of my trouser. So after sewing it down like this, the next thing you do, you're going to bring it to the right face. Like, just watch the way I'm doing it. Remember, it's on fold. So you're going to open it, bring it, bend it. You're going to bend it to the right face and make sure all the rough edges from the sewing you just did is hidden inside the band. So you're going to fold it over like this to the right face. Then you're going to start sewing on the edge carefully. You're going to make a straight stitch there. So after that, I'll go on and add my zipper. It's an invincible zip. You can see this is the band. This is how it's looking. You can see the right face there. I made a straight stitch on the band after folding it over. And then you can look at how neat it is on the inside. So you can also go on and use this method or any other one that you're comfortable with. And I went ahead to place my zip at the side of the Palazzo trouser. It's an invincible zip I used, so you can't really see it. And this is it. This is how our Palazzo trouser is looking. So I'll just go on and trim out the edges. If you have a little excess at the edge of your trouser, go on and trim it out before folding. And I'll go over and fold it using 2.5 inches. I'll fold it inward. So guys, thank you all so much for watching. This is a trouser. This is how it's looking. If you follow this process, you're going to achieve a good, beautiful trouser at the end. So this is what we have. This is how it's looking. So if you've not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, hit on the red button. Our next tutorial is going to be the overlapping crop top used here. Thank you.